All right, so we're going to talk about customizing Animate CSS default animations. Before we go into the code and we start looking at what the code is, I wanted to cover what CSS animations is. It can get pretty complex, so we're just going to kind of go off the defaults or some of the basics before we go in and take a look at what Animate CSS has done. CSS animations, if you want to learn more, you can dive in by going to W3 Schools, or you can just go to Mastering CSS Animations, which is another course inside of Pluralsight here. So you can search for Mastering CSS Animations, and that will give you more in depth if you wanted to learn about the animations that you can do in CSS. And then once you learn that, you can come back into Animate CSS and you can add on your own animations, or you can tweak some of the existing animations as well. So a sample of CSS animations is inside of CSS, you have to set up basically keyframes that says, okay, well, I'm going to create an animation called example. Now in this example, the animation itself is going to go from the background color of red to the background color of yellow. So we're setting up a from, and then we're setting up a to. It's going to go from this, and then we define the different properties and values, which in this case only has one property and value, which is background color, and it's going to be red, and then it's going to go to another property and value, which is going to be background color, and it's going to be yellow. Now you can pass in other properties and values if you wanted to also do the position, you wanted to do the location, you wanted to make it go the scale, you want it to go larger, you want it to go smaller, you can do all of that. So you have to set up the animation first, and then inside of your class, you then go in and apply that animation. So you go in and say animation name, and then you give it the name of the same animation that you did. So in this case, it would be example. And then you can pass in other stuff like we did before of animation duration and then animation delay, different things like that. But you have to set up the animation first, and then you have to call the animation when you apply it to your div tag. Those are two important things to keep in mind when we start looking at the Animate CSS code. Keep that in mind. You have to set up the animation, then you have to set up the class that has that animation applied. So let's now go into Animate CSS and take a look at how it's set up.